And it is in fact Sunday, which means it is almost time for Meet the Press. So ahead of this morning's show, we do have the man, the myth, the legend joining us now, Chuck Todd, to give you a quick preview of what's ahead. Chuck, good morning as always. Thank you so much for giving us a couple minutes of your time.
Oh, of course, Jordan. Appreciate it.
Well, first off, we got to talk about what's happening overseas in Afghanistan right now. This obviously has a lot of people talking. It's even prompted at least one rally here in Denver. We know that a question your team is asking this morning is if Kabul will fall, and then if that happens, will President Biden own that collapse? What's the feeling as of now?
Yeah. Well, it looks like Kabul basically has fallen without a shot being fired. I mean, it's the Secretary of State all but acknowledges that this morning. And so the question is, what does this look like going from here? The short-term goal is for America to get Americans out of Kabul, out of Afghanistan, within a matter of days. That's why they're surging more troops to get there. But we're going to end up, our physical embassy is going to get shut down. Now, the Secretary of State assures that we will have a diplomatic presence, that the embassy is essentially moving to the airport, because right now the airport is really the only secure place there is. That's what the military is securing. The question is, are we really going to stay there for the long term? And then now, of course, it's what happens next? And the Biden administration is arguing that, you know, had we delayed 6 months, the outcome would have been the same. Had he done it 6 months sooner, the outcome would have been the same. That there was nothing that could have happened that was going to somehow strengthen the Afghan security forces. I think the real pressure on the Biden administration, or I wouldn't call it pressure, but the reason I think this decision is just going to haunt the administration is we saw what happened after Iraq. We pull our troops out, ISIS forms, becomes this sort of propaganda success story for a period of time. You see it inspire homegrown terrorists that actually attempt attacks on our soil. And that's the thing. This is perhaps a huge propaganda victory for the jihadist movement, with the Taliban being stronger today than they were 20 years ago when they first ran the last time they essentially ran the country. And how do we prevent that propaganda success story, particularly on the eve of the 20th anniversary of 9/11? I think it's one of those things that if nothing happens, I think over time the American public will be satisfied. But anything that happens that emanates out of there, we're going to relitigate this decision by this president and, frankly, by the previous one, perhaps for decades.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to keep a close eye on that. Let's come back to the states, though, where another big question that we're talking about right now, and certainly one that we're continuing to dive into here in Colorado. As kids head back to school, the question is if this could speed up circulation of this Delta variant that everybody is talking about. What does that conversation on your program look like this morning? We know you're talking to one of the epidemiologists there. Yeah, no, Michael Osterholm of people that watch the show know he's pretty straight talker on this stuff. Look, this is he anticipates this current wave that we're in to last at least another 4 to 6 weeks, while we're seeing some evidence that in the southern states we're finally hitting, starting to peak and starting to get a downturn. You have the Pacific Northwest. In your area, you're starting to see upticks again. Southern Illinois is starting to see an uptick. Even in the mid-Atlantic states where I'm at is seeing an uptick. So I think the concern, and the concern he raises is this. The largest group of unvaccinated Americans are who? Kids under the age of 12, because they can't get vaccinated. And so the concern that the Delta variant basically runs wild among this group, not only does it put the health of kids at risk, but maybe they are the transmitters of this Delta variant. So I think that's the concern, and is why there are so many advocates for mask mandates in the schools themselves, because, again, the largest cohort of unvaccinated Americans are under the age of 12, and they're going to school. Yeah, certainly a concern there. All right, Chuck, thank you so much for staying with us this morning. We appreciate it, and we'll be watching. And you can catch Meet the Press every Sunday morning on Channel 9 right after us at 9 o'clock. We'll be right back.